Hi, Professor PJ here, focusing on vocabulary used in communication studies, which, for this video, are two conflict management styles that are often confused with each other: compromise and collaboration. You'll hear these terms mostly in the context of conflict management when discussing the 5 basic conflict management styles. You're probably familiar with 3 of these styles, as they are fairly easy to understand, even though you may hear them called by different names. Competition or competitive, sometimes called forcing or hard bargaining, known as win-lose, meaning if you use this style, your goal is to win, resulting in the other's loss. Accommodation or yielding, smoothing, or soft bargaining, known as lose-win. Avoidance or withdrawal, known as lose-lose. However, the remaining 2 styles, compromise and collaboration, often need a bit more explanation to be able to distinguish between the two. As you'll probably look these terms up in a basic online dictionary, that's where we'll start too. For compromise, dictionary.com's first definition is the most appropriate: a settlement of differences by mutual concessions, an agreement reached by adjustment of conflicting or opposing claims, principles, etc., by reciprocal modification of demands. When you compare this definition with the one provided for collaboration, you can see where the lines seem to blur. Collaboration is the act or process of working together or cooperating, which doesn't sound that much different. Let's consider alternative words for these styles. Compromise can sometimes be referred to as negotiation or distributive bargaining, and collaboration as cooperation or integrative bargaining. So we can look at those definitions, and I'm not showing all of the definitions, just the ones that seem most appropriate. Let's see. For negotiation, mutual discussion, arrangement of terms, and for distributive bargaining, negotiation process and resource allocation. Going back to the original definition of compromise, we can add in an emphasis on differences settled by mutual concessions, adjusting conflicting or opposing principles, and reciprocal modifications of demands. For collaboration, cooperation emphasizes willingly working or acting together for a common purpose or benefit, very close to the definition of collaboration we started with. And integrative bargaining focuses on the recognition of common problems that require mutual resolution. Now let's compare and contrast the two. While compromise may involve a mutual discussion, that's not necessarily working together or cooperating. In fact, compromise focuses on differences rather than commonalities and relies on both parties making concessions such as time, money, values, etc. And that's why you'll see 2 different classifications of this style. Lose-lose, as in true compromise, both parties give up something important. No one truly wins. And win-lose, lose-win, because compromise often manifests as I get what I want this time, and you can get what you want next time, or vice versa. That's not to say that both parties would be completely dissatisfied with the result. In some situations, compromise is expected or is the preferred method of managing conflicts, so people go into the conflict situation with the mindset that concessions are inevitable and are therefore comfortable with the results. In comparison, collaboration focuses on the goals or benefits of each party. Then parties work together to find a solution that satisfies everyone, based on the outcome meeting their important goals, which is why it is labeled win-win. This is different from compromise, where you settle for a solution that partially satisfies each party. Not surprisingly, collaboration is often more difficult and more time-consuming than the others. What differentiates the two? In compromise, the focus is on positions or solutions. This is what I want to have happen. In contrast, collaboration focuses on the interests, the values, or what is really important to each party, then figures out ways to meet those interests. Rather than coming into a discussion with a specific solution in mind, collaborators create a mutual solution together. In compromise, each side gives up something important, and it's not always a 50-50 split. If both parties give up something that is really important to them, they are compromising. Both are losing. In collaboration, both parties work together to ensure that important interests are met, Any interests that are not met are usually nice-to-haves versus must-haves. Remember that compromise is sometimes referred to as win-lose, lose-win. That reflects the turn-taking behavior of compromise. You get what you want one time, you win, and the next time the other party gets what they want. Now it's your turn to lose. In collaboration, the solution tends to address everyone's interests simultaneously. You don't have to wait to get your important interests met. Let's look at a real-life example from my life several years ago. My family loves to go to Disneyland, but we live in Northern California, about 400 miles away, 7 hours by car, and when you take into account travel and waiting time to and from the airport, well, let's say there's not much of a time savings. When my daughters were young, they loved to listen to Disney music, loud and proud. Okay, they still do now, but it was really annoying at the time, and I'm not crazy about listening to the same thing over and over and over again, especially since I'd be hearing it a lot over the next few days anyway. So, what to do? They want to listen to Disney music, and I don't. Conflicting interests, right? Maybe. You've probably already moved to a collaborative solution, but hold on a moment. We're trying to identify the differences between the two styles. In compromise, we could agree to something like the girls could listen to their music for an hour, then we could play car bingo for an hour, or an hour of quiet time. Or maybe I promise that they can stay up to watch the fireworks as an incentive for a peaceful car ride. Focus on positions. We started with solutions, our positions, rather than what our interests are. Come with specific solutions in mind. If I approach a situation with what I think is the perfect solution, like splitting the time, and present that right off the top, then I started with my idea for a solution rather than worked with others to develop options. In the hour on, hour off option, we each give up something. And remember, it doesn't have to be 50-50. Even the fireworks promise requires them to give up some music time and me to give up some sleep. And these examples also involve turn-taking. But let's look at the collaboration part. What are our interests? In other words, why do we want a particular solution? There could be many, but we don't know until we explore them. Avoid being bored, reduce stress, avoid fighting, make the time go faster, safety. While safety might be on the top of my interests, that may not be a high priority for my daughters, but we all likely dread a long, boring travel time. So we can talk about this together, and yes, we may come up with a headphone solution you probably already thought about, and compare that against these interests to see if it meets them. Notice as well that both the girls and I would have our interests met simultaneously. No turn-taking needed. But focusing on the interests before the solutions means that we can come up with other alternatives to consider. Get on the road early so the girls can sleep in the car. I can listen to my audiobooks and there are fewer cars on the road. Investigate airfare and car rentals. Flying can be as much of an experience for my kids as Disneyland. Invite another family to join and share the driving and the excitement. Create a sing-along playlist. Or agree to listen to an audiobook that we all like. Well, once you get started, you might be surprised at the number of possibilities you come up with. Collaboration is often considered to be the most constructive style of handling conflicts when both the issue and the relationship are important to all parties. Some go as far as to say that this style should be used in most conflicts, except when other styles are more appropriate. And this last statement is key. There is no one best way of managing conflict. Every conflict style has its place. We've only been focusing on compromise and collaboration as those are the ones most people get confused. Compromise and collaboration. A few more words or concepts you can add to your mental dictionary. I love sharing information like this, so check out my other videos. Learning about communication topics is fun and I think valuable.